Hello and welcome to the WhoDeannyPod. I'm your host, Franklin Oliver, and I appreciate you joining me for this first video edition of the Houdini podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Juneteenth. Lots of you have probably heard something about Juneteenth in the last 5 years, especially, and some of you may know that you're getting a day off work or some other sort of benefit that's associated with holidays. But a lot of folks still don't know very much about this particular holiday. So I want to just spend a few minutes talking about Juneteenth. So Juneteenth is the most important Black American commemoration of the end of slavery in the U.S. Juneteenth is directly tied to June 19th, 1865, when American Army troops commanded by General Gordon Granger showed up in Galveston, Texas, and told Black folks that they were free. The Emancipation Proclamation, I'm sure you learned about in school, well, that came into being 2.5 years before this. And way more valuable, the Confederate Army was defeated by the U.S. military in April of 1865. So please understand, the enslaved folks in Galveston were kept in bondage for 2 whole months after the Civil War ended. 2 months. I mean, how many people died during those 2 months without ever being liberated? I think we can only wonder. But now let's get to the celebration itself. Over the decades, Juneteenth has also been known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, even Celebration Day. So I'm an historian by training and occupation. So I want there to be one unified event, one day, one time, all of it just neatly buttoned up. But that's not how Juneteenth works then or now. The ideas behind Juneteenth being celebrated on different days, in different places, and with different names actually help make the true meaning of the holiday hit even harder. See, slavery certainly didn't end with the Emancipation Proclamation or Lee's surrender, or even upon the ratification of the 13th Amendment. As we recognize now with this holiday, it ended on June 19, 1865 in Galveston, but slavery ended for the other 2 million or so enslaved people on different days, in different months, different years, and in many different ways. Slavery ended for some folks when they escaped north over the Ohio River. Slavery ended for some folks when they were freed by the people who had enslaved them. Slavery ended for some folks when the Union Army came to their area. Slavery ended for some folks when they escaped into the swamps of Florida or north to Canada or into free Western territory. But slavery ended for most folks only when they died. In its very first year, 1865, Juneteenth was a celebration of freedom and the end of the Civil War. But already by 1866, the celebration usually focused on the brand new 13th Amendment. That's the one that guaranteed freedom through the U.S. Constitution. By 1870, Black men had the right to vote, which was another source of Juneteenth joy. In the post-Reconstruction era from the late 1870s to 1940s, Black freedom was really limited in the South, and Juneteenth celebrations diminished as well. That began to change again during the post-World War II Great Migration, when Juneteenth spread as Black folks moved north and east from Texas, bringing their fading traditions with them. During the spring of 1968, after Martin Luther King Jr.'s murder on April 4th, the organizers of the Poor People's March worked to revitalize Juneteenth by including it in their program. And around 50,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial on Wednesday, June 19th, 1968. That's Black power indeed. 5 years later, a former president of the Houston NAACP, the Reverend C. Anderson Davis, began a quest to revive Juneteenth as Emancipation Day in Texas. And that worked well enough that for Black Texans of my generation, Juneteenth has always existed as part of their culture. So with all this varied history, it feels only right that Juneteenth has different names and dates, different celebrations and commemorations. It's also quite fitting that Juneteenth finally received national recognition as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement. During the 2020 so-called Summer of Racial Reckoning, after the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, BLM and other organizations highlighted the significance of Juneteenth. Those efforts led to corporate, educational, and government institutional acknowledgement of Juneteenth, and finally the establishment of a federal holiday in 2021 under President Joe Biden. And one last thing. In 1872, a formerly enslaved African man named Jack Yates came to Texas and, along with two other people, bought Emancipation Park in Houston. That park came into existence for the specific point of celebrating Juneteenth, and it's still in use. George Floyd was a teenager in Houston's 3rd Ward District, and in 1993, he graduated from Jack Yates High School. The circle remains unbroken. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the WhoDeannyPod. And as always, remember to do good and be well.